Saraswati writes this. A question came in for tonight. In Golden Volcano of Divine Love, Srila Maharaj talks about humility. Humility and tolerance, and he brings the example of the dog walking into a temple. On the superficial level, we let the dog in, but on the other hand, this is not true tolerance because it would disturb the Vaishnavas. So in our day-to-day lives, where do we draw the line between actually being humble and showcasing false humility? But on a superficial level, we're not letting the dog in. Even on a superficial level, if we have a nice temple room in London or in Ukraine or anything, we have a nice temple room. On a superficial level, we're not letting the dog in. I'm just joking a little bit, but it says on a superficial level. On the superficial, it says on the superficial level, we let the dog in. Okay, you have to turn off your mic.
I've done it.
Okay, on the superficial level, you say on the superficial level, we let the dog in. No. Even on a superficial level, we're not letting the dog in. But I understand your point. The point is that the Guru Maharaj says, Trinadapi Sunichena Tauroriva Sahishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Well, we should have humility, offer respect to others, and tolerance. So, but that doesn't mean, it says, that doesn't mean that we deal with everybody in the same way, according to the situation. For instance, if somebody is attacking the temple, we're not going to just show humility, offer respect and tolerance to them. We can understand that. What Guru Maharaj is saying, that you can't like apply this in a superficial way. You can't. Sometimes we see so much exhibitions of false humility. Now, I'm not going to cite this as an example because we hear that Swarup Damodar and also Pundarik Vidyanidhi, they were close friends, and on a similar, they were both advanced souls, advanced devotees. So sometimes they would play at trying to touch each other's feet. So, that, of course, that sometimes devotees, they would show some humility by trying to touch somebody else's feet or at least verbally touch somebody's feet. They'll make a false show of humility. But often these are it's just on a verbal level. It's just like somebody will say, oh, Prabhu, you are so worshipable by me. I am offering all respects to you. And they may say like that, but they may not have any real meaning in saying that. It's just they're trying to present themselves as being humble and tolerant, etc. But if you really see it on a deeper level, they'll exhibit sometimes, we'll say this is false humility, because the next thing they'll become very offended or very upset if they're not shown proper respect. Like somebody doesn't show them respect, then they'll become very offended. You have offended me, get out of my house. But just 5 minutes ago, you were telling me that you are the most fallen and you are touching my lotus feet in due reverence, etc. But now you're telling me you have offended me, get out of my house 5 minutes later. So then what am I to conclude? I'm concluding that this is an exhibition of false humility. And actually you aren't tolerant at all. What did you do? Oh, you scuffed, you tracked some dirt onto my carpet by not properly wiping your feet when you came into the house. Yes, that is regrettable. Right? But in most cases, it wouldn't happen with the devotee anyway. They would take off most places, they'll take off their shoes at the door. But I'm just saying there are so many ways in which false humility is exhibited by persons who are just trying to pretend that they have some Vaishnava qualities. Now, getting back to the example of the dog, that was a point Guru Maharaj was making. You can't just indiscriminately pretend that you're humble, offering respect to others and tolerance, because why should you do so? You can say, well, the dog, he's a jiva soul. He's also Govinda Maharaj liked dogs. So why shouldn't we let the dog into the temple? Well, Govinda Maharaj never, he liked dogs, and sometimes he had a pet dog, but he didn't invite that dog to come into the temple. The dog had its place. As far as he was an animal that was beloved by Srila Govinda Maharaj. Well, we're not supposed to be brainless. I mean, we're not supposed to be not wanting to speak harshly, but we're not supposed to be brain dead. We're not supposed to. That's what Guru Maharaj is saying, that humility, offering respect and tolerance, you wouldn't necessarily do that to it. Not necessarily, you wouldn't do it at all to somebody who had evil intentions, who wanted to hurt the temple or hurt the devotees. You wouldn't say, oh, yes, please come right in. And then that person is dealing very aggressively with everybody. You're not going to show humility, offering respect and tolerance under those situations. So obviously, some discernment is necessary. So in our day-to-day lives, where do we draw the line between actually being humble and showcasing false humility? Well, you're going to have to do that as a mature devotee. You're going to have to be able to develop that kind of that you're not just imitating, but you're actually developing the qualities of a Vaishnava. And if you're actually developing sincerely the qualities of Vaishnava, you won't have any trouble with this. You'll be able to understand when you're offering false humility, because your humility will actually be sincere, and you'll have sincere humility, and it won't have to be something that's feigned or pretended. You won't have to pretend to be humble. And that's one of the things. So that brings us to the point of humility, offering respect to others, and tolerance. Well, you can feign humility. You can pretend to be humble. You can pretend to be offering respect to others. Like you could say, oh, yes, my dear Prabhu, you are so worshipable. You can pretend to show respect to others, or show some kind of level of false respect to others, but it's very difficult to fake tolerance. You're either tolerant or you're not. And if you're not tolerant, if you're truly not tolerant, I can't say that necessarily I would receive glowing reports in being tolerant, but you can feign humility, you can falsely offer respect to others, but it's a little hard to disguise tolerance. Either you're tolerant or you're not. And if you're not tolerant, it will be seen very easily when you run into some situation where you have to be tolerant. But if you're not tolerant, that will be easily seen. That is, you can fake being humble. You can fake offering respect to others, because that can be done on a verbal level. But tolerance goes a little deeper than just lip service. Tolerance, you'll have to actually be tolerant in order to show tolerance. So here, how in our day-to-day lives, activities, where do we draw the line between actually being humble and showcasing false humility? I would just say that in our day-to-day life, we want, in particular, we want to have deep relationships with the Vaishnavas. We want to develop actually love for the Vaishnavas and want to be able to serve the Vaishnavas. So that will be something of our goal. And in that way, if we actually have genuine appreciation for Vaishnavas, then automatically, I believe, we'll show humility and we'll offer respect to them and we'll have tolerance. That will be the first way of developing, will be in terms of our sincere dealings with Vaishnavas. And then as far as applying this to other persons, because the verse doesn't say you're just supposed to be humble and offer respects and be tolerant with Vaishnavas. It says it's Mahaprabhu is showing this, Govinda Maharaj showed that in dealing with everybody. So how to develop those qualities? Well, I remember one thing Srila Sridhar Maharaj said. He says, if you actually understand you're a servant and you're not a master, you can actually appreciate that you're das, you're a servant of the servant. If you actually can understand or know that you're a servant, then you will not have the privilege of acting as if you're a master. And someone who's if you took somebody with you, if you were, say, a rich person and you employed a servant, that servant would not have the right to contradict you or to demand their rights or say, well, if you don't do this or this for me, I will go on strike and I won't serve you dinner. Or that you don't have those rights. You're taken somewhere by the master and you don't have the rights to demand equality and fair treatments. I'm under the union of servants of the servant. I'm under the servants' union. You have no right to speak to me that way. You have no right to terminate my employment. You don't have those rights. You can't talk to me in that way. You can't deal with me like that. I have my rights. What kind of a servant is that? Would you hire that kind of servant? Would you want that kind of servant? Obviously not. So if you actually understand, and Guru Maharaj even went so far as to say das can in one sense, can be seen as of the, almost in the way you would talk about a slave. What was that? You remember? I'm trying to remember the context. Somebody can tell me that. Remember that king? He visited the UK, and he said, no, I think he visited France or somewhere.
Yeah.
Huh?
The Tower of London.
Yeah, and he said, oh, I hear you have this very interesting means of executing somebody. You have the guillotine. So I'd like to see that in action. Can you show me the guillotine on someone? Right?
Yeah.
And then they said, what? We can't just execute somebody for your pleasure. And then the king said, well, okay, I can understand. You can't do this with your own citizens. But here, take one of my servants. I have one of my servants. You show me the guillotine on him. And they were horrified. You may be a king in your country. You may be able to do as you like in your country, but here we cannot allow you to use the guillotine on a person just for your pleasure. And then he said, you do not understand what is king. Is that's the way he replied?
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, and we'd say, well, maybe we might say, unfortunately, we do understand what is a king. unfortunately, because we've had our shares. We've had our share of them. Like, what's the song? I'm Henry VIII. I am. I'm Henry VIII. I am. Is that the one? Is that one of the kings who was engaged in indiscriminate guillotining?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Yeah. He was like that king anyway, because he thought, well, under the Catholic Church or whatever, I'm not allowed to have a divorce. So, this is called divorce Henry VIII style, right? This is how I facilitate divorces. And I remember hearing about that when I was young. They had a song, something like, with their head tucked underneath her arm, she walks, the something towers. Right? You remember that song?
No.
Well, apparently it was about one of Henry VIII's ex-wives or present wives, how you ever, if you want to say. Well, no, you couldn't say present wife, because when they marry people, they say, do you accept so-and-so to be your lawfully wedded wife? Do you accept so-and-so to be your lawfully wedded husband till death do you part, right? They say like that. So obviously, this will terminate a marriage. Is it not true?
For sure.
Yeah, so this is one way of this. You can consider, now you may consider we are separated. And you are more than separated. You are separated from me and separated from your head. So, but anyway, so that person said, you do not understand what is a king. So, but all right, we may or may not understand what is that kind of definition of a king. But Guru Maharaj is showing us that you have to understand what it means to be a servant of the servant. And that's explained in one part of the book where it's called, I believe it talks about, we are not, one of the slogans isn't not all rights reserved. We hear that, publications and things, all rights reserved. But actually, if you're a servant, you do not have all rights reserved. You don't have any rights reserved. You have no right to demand your rights. You don't even have that right. You can say, all right, I'm excluded from any rights, but I can demand my rights. No, you cannot even demand your rights. We're not giving you a syndicate status. We're not allowing you to establish a syndicate or a union of the United Syndicate of Dasas. We don't have that kind of rights established for our devotees. But I know on a personal level, if I'm really calling somebody prabhu, I'm really referring to, if I'm really calling somebody prabhu, as we are, what can we say, feigned to do. Is that the right word? Feigned to do. That we're inclined to do so, to refer to our God brothers as prabhu. And and we call the men prabhu and the ladies will call didi, right? But that didi doesn't stand for Devi Dasi. That didi is a term in Bengali for elder sister, didi, right?
Yes.
We talked about that last week. In ISKCON, they used to use the term Mataji, but that actually is not very popular to use, or not correct to use in Bengal, because in many cases, the word Mataji refers to a mistress. So if we refer to somebody as Mataji, it's not a very good way of referring to ladies. You know, it may sound, we may have heard, oh, all women are our mothers. Okay, you may think of it that way. That's nice. But you're not to call other ladies Matajis, especially when they're 18 and very pretty, etc. You're not going to call them Matajis. And you're not going to call them Matajis, and you're not going to call them Mamacitas either. So, you know, even though, oh, but why that term mother is respectful? Okay, yes, it's respectful. But in English, it's respectful, but don't use the Mataji term especially in Bengal. But I've seen in ISKCON, they would always refer to ladies as Matajis. But I'm saying that if we're calling somebody prabhu and we're calling somebody didi, then we really do maintain some respect for that person. I mean, prabhu means like Lord, right? So yesterday I was filling out a form, I think, for Virgin Atlantic, which is, of course, an English airline. And it said, it asked what title, and it was either, one option was Mr. and another option was Sir. So, you know, you might say, I might say, if I'm speaking to an unknown person, I might say, Sir, how are you? You know, I might say that. But I was thinking when I'm filling that form out, I'm not going to check Sir. You're not going to check Sir. I'm not going to check Sir. And the ladies are, the woman is not going to check lady, because obviously this refers to entitlement, right? It refers to a special, you know, they've been especially, what's the word? What do they do when they establish a lord or a lady or a sir?
The honors list. Yeah.
So I thought, I'm looking over there. No, don't check, sir. Check. They wanted something, so I said, okay, Mr. All right, Mr. I'm a Mr. But he would say, Mr., but not master. I don't know what the derivative of the word Mr. is, where it's derived from. I mean, I don't know where it comes from. But anyway, I'm just saying, as servant of the servant, we have no, as Srila Sridhar says, we don't have any rights reserved. We can't demand our rights. A servant can't do that. If you're going somewhere, the servant can't establish immediately that servant's rights, right? And I don't know, here we have many people who manage temples or have been with devotees. Let's put this in a more neutral setting. Lakshmi Kanti.
Dandavat, Dandavat, everybody.
Dandavat. Now, if you went with somebody who's say the son or the daughter, you took them with you to India, and they said to you, Lakshmi Kanti, I want to establish right from the get-go, right from the beginning, what my rights are here. Now I'm with you. What do I have a right to? I have the right to so many meals a day. I have the right to an internet connection. Then wherever I go, I have the right to an internet connection, and I have the right to ask for an update in my accommodations if I don't like the room. Well, how would you react to that, Lakshmi Kanti? You've taken this person with you, perhaps the son or daughter of a devotee, someone you're friends with, and they immediately speak to you like that, you would think, wouldn't you think, what's wrong with this person, right? What's wrong with that person? But if we maintain that mentality, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, we don't have any rights reserved. So anyway, going back to the question. So in our day-to-day life, where do we draw the line between actually being humble and showcasing false humility? Well, I would think that the answer would be to actually develop some genuine humility. If you develop some genuine humility, you won't have to worry about showcasing it. I mean, now somebody could say, oh, you can speak that way, but I know you. You're not humble at all. You're actually very proud and puffed up. I'd say, well, I'm sorry that I'm that way, but I'm not supposed to be that way. I'm calling people prabhu. I'm calling people didi. I'm not supposed to talk to an elder sister like she's some kind of rag doll or something. And I'm not supposed to talk to my god brothers like Mahaprabhu. He didn't even want to take service from his god brother. His spiritual master, Ishwara Puri, sent Govinda as his servant, and he sent Kashishwar as his servant. He sent them, but they were actually Mahaprabhu's god brothers because they were disciples of Ishwara Puri. And Mahaprabhu expressed first, it's interesting because first Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, apparently, Govinda wasn't from the Brahmin class, or maybe Ishwara Puri, maybe, what is it? Kashishwar. He wasn't of the Brahmin category. So then first, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, well, why did Ishwara Puri have a servant who wasn't even a Brahmin? He was a Sudra. Why did he have a servant who was a Sudra? And Mahaprabhu replied, oh, my spiritual master can do as he likes. Just like we saw in other pastimes of Mahaprabhu, that when he was in, I guess it was in Mathura, he went to the house of one Sanodiya Brahmin. And that Sanodiya Brahmin, normally, he's not really truly a Brahmin in the sense that he takes employment from the other castes, the other divisions of society. So that's not the behavior normally of a Brahmin. So the Sanodiya Brahmin wasn't really what you would say a true Brahmin. And then, but Madhavendra Puri had eaten at his house. So Mahaprabhu accepted an invitation from him to go to his house. And at his house, that Sanodiya Brahmin said, well, you have your servant with you, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, or he's with you. So would you like him to cook the meal for you? And Mahaprabhu said, no, there's no question of that. Madhavendra Puri ate at your house, so we are happy. We are happy. We will. Madhavendra Puri gave you so much mercy. Then you cook for us. You do whatever you like. We're not asking that. I'm not asking that someone else cook. You cook. Madhavendra Puri, whatever his actions are shown by the Mahajans, we will follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Mahaprabhu showed that. So what was I saying? I'm saying that, that Mahaprabhu, he showed us that is not bound by the so-called norms, even of the Brahmin society, or normally a sannyasi would only eat what a Brahmin has offered him. But Mahaprabhu didn't show that kind of formality. And when I've traveled, I've seen that when we traveled with, sometimes I traveled with the members of our mutt, and when we would go collecting, food grains, or we'd go collecting potatoes in different villages. Generally, when we were traveling, we had one devotee who was a cook, and he cooked for us. And even if somebody from another mott asked us to go to take dinner at their house or something, we generally would not do that. We wouldn't, even though somebody was initiated by, say, another guru or something, invited us to their house, we wouldn't go. We wouldn't take necessarily food from them. But we had one cook with us who cooked for us while we traveled. But when we got to a place where there were disciples of Srila Sridhar Maharaj or Srila Govinda Maharaj, in other words, people who were related with our mutt, and they invited us to their house to eat, there was no restrictions. We would accept that and go to their house and eat there. Whereas if somebody from another mutt invited us to take a meal with them, we wouldn't do that. If you ask me why, I can't enter, because I don't know all the etiquette of the mutt, but I know that was the principle that was established for us. We were traveling, we had our own cook. But when we got to places where there were disciples of Guru Maharaj or Govinda Maharaj, and the woman of the house cooked, we would eat at that house. There was no, you can say, well, that's unusual. You wouldn't eat something cooked by another Gaudiya Vaishnava from another guru. You wouldn't eat what they cooked, but you would eat what's cooked by a disciple of, even if that other person was a Brahmin, you wouldn't eat at their house necessarily, but you would eat from the hands of somebody who wasn't a Brahmin, or from a lady of the house, if they were disciples of Guru Maharaj or Govinda Maharaj. Did you ever hear of that standard? Anyone have experience of that? Well, I had experience of that when we were traveling and collecting in India. We had no prohibitions from eating what was cooked by the devotees from our mutt. Lakshmi, you lived in India, did you know of that?
I didn't know, but I just assumed that that's the way it was. However, now that you mentioned that, like, what about when they make festivals and they invite the devotees to, to their temples or something? Is this the same concept applies?
That's a different situation. We're invited to their temple. We're taking Mahaprasadam from that temple. There's not a problem with that. But there was a problem if we're just traveling and we meet somebody who says they're a disciple of so-and-so with this and that, but we wouldn't necessarily eat at their house or eat what they cooked. But we're invited to a festival of another temple and they serve us prasadam. Of course, we're going to take that. We'll see that. That's Mahaprasadam. It's offered to the deity, etc. Especially if that temple is known to us and we're going there as an so-called invited. All right. Anyway, I'm kind of dealing with this question of, here it says, where do we draw the line between actually being humble and showcasing false humility? I would say that you want to develop what is real humility and understand that. Then you don't have to worry about being falsely humble. Now, I had one experience with Govinda Maharaj when I went to Kolkata, and I was there, and Govinda Maharaj told me, you can stay in this room. And when he opened the door, there was one female dog living there, and with about 4 or 5 puppies in the room. So I saw that, and I said, oh, okay, Maharaj, I can stay in another room. And Govinda Maharaj said, well, humility, offering respects, and tolerance. So where is your tolerance? He said, this is not a problem. I mean, I can take that dog out and her puppies, and we can clean that up very quickly. That's not a problem for us. But he said when he opened the door and I saw them, I was thinking, well, I don't necessarily want to disturb this dog or something, but Govinda Maharaj chastised me, and he says, we're supposed to be tolerant. Why aren't you tolerant? I can have this dog taken out and their puppies taken out, and we can clean up the room. We can clean the room. We can wash the floor of the room. He said, that's not a problem. But why aren't you tolerant? I got hammered by Srila Govinda Maharaj for I didn't know how to react. When I saw this dog and their puppies, he says, you'll stay in this room. And I see this dog and her puppies. And I said, well, maybe I could stay in another room. But Govinda Maharaj told me, where's your tolerance? We can clean up after this dog. But why are you saying? Anyway, so, I mean, how do we know? How can we draw the line between false humility and real humility? I guess by trying to be genuinely humble. If we're genuine, nobody wants something that's faked or feigned, I remember the devotees when we were in ISKCON. Sometimes the devotees would, in Jagannath Puri, they would buy necklaces of red glass beads strung on a necklace. Like they were little beads made of glass, but they were red glass. It was very pretty. And they'd sell those in South America. And sometimes people, or in Mexico, sometimes people would say, is this coral? And the devotees would say, no, this is coralline. They would say, this is coralline. People would say, is this coral? They say, no, this is coralline. This is coralline. When this coralline was just a word invented. But if somebody wants to buy coral, they want coral. They don't want coralline. At least they may take coralline if they think, well, this is just glass. It looks very nice. I'll buy this. But you certainly wouldn't buy that thinking that you're buying coral and be charged a high price for it. So whenever, that's what Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he says, what's the difference between denotation and connotation? He said, and then he draws the line between a glass diamond and a real diamond. And he says, there's that distinction, right? How will you explain denotation and connotation in terms of the diamond and the glass? Devashis, can you explain that? What is the denotation? No sound. Still no sound. Now.
Yeah, well, denotation is the actual thing, and connotation is what's suggested to be the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so Guru Maharaj says the consideration is that only some person can afford to pay for a diamond, and anybody can afford to pay for the glass imitation. So the idea is that well, let me see how I can express this so that I get it right. So the reason anybody can buy the glass imitation diamond is because there's so many of them. They're very cheap. They're readily available. But not everybody can afford a real diamond because they're not so common. They're not easily attainable. So I assume that what you're saying, under denotation, there is the real item, I guess, and under connotation, there is that which is easily obtainable. So we want to be able to distinguish between what is real humility, what is real tolerance, what is really offering respect to others, and not just the imitation of doing that. So how can one tell the difference? Well, one will have to be able to recognize what is the real article. And I remember, well, I'll get into the next question because maybe we can draw some correlation between this. It says, from Anonymous, when practitioners are conscious of making any of the 10 offenses to the holy name, what is the way to atone for any of these offenses? Okay, so we have the question of, one is conscious that one is making an offense to one of the 10 offenses to the holy name. What is the way to atone for any of these offenses? So I'll say that there is a little bit, for me, a little of ambiguity, I guess that's correct pronunciation, ambiguity regarding this question, because there's the question of atonement. And why are we necessarily looking for atonement? I mean, I'm not doubting the question, but I'm just saying we have the example of the bath of an elephant. The elephant bathes, and immediately after leaving the body of water, the river, or wherever that elephant is bathing, the elephant immediately rolls in the dirt or throws dirt all over himself. And I've seen this. I saw that when I was in St. Petersburg visiting the temple there. The devotees had some elephants come. This was at, what did they call it? What's the temple of St. Petersburg called? Is it
Lata.
Huh?
Lata.
Okay, Lata. Is that the correct pronunciation? Okay.
Well,
Lachta.
Lata, okay. So they had special program, and there were some elephants there from a circus. So they were there, and then there were several elephants. Then they took them nearby to the Baltic. What is it? Is it the Black Sea or the Baltic?
Baltic Sea.
Baltic Sea. All right. So the elephants entered into the water, and they were with their rider on their back. And of course, the elephant didn't go so deep in the water that the rider was submerged or anything. But the elephant, you could say, the elephant was bathing in the river and cooling his or herself in the river. Then the elephant left the river, and I saw these elephants with their trunk. They started grabbing sand and dirt from the shore and throwing it in the air all over themselves, like saying, now I've taken a bath, and now I got to feel genuinely with some talcum powder, but we elephants, we don't use talcum powder, we just use dirt. So throwing dirt all over themselves, and in the process of throwing dirt all over themselves, they were throwing dirt on their riders also. But it seemed like this was part of the ritual of the bath of an elephant. And that, in fact, is what they have this example the Vedas called it, referring to prayaschita or atonement, as being the bath of an elephant, because you atone for your mistake. You say, oh, I have done wrong. And then the priest tells you, okay, chant so many Hail Marys full of grace, or do this prayaschita ceremony, or put some Ganga water on your back, on your head, or bow down to Mecca so many times, etc. I mean, different forms of atonement. All religions have this atonement, but it is that atonement process as compared to the bath of an elephant, because the elephant takes a bath, but immediately begins getting dirty again or throwing dirt all over himself. That's the bath of an elephant. And the example is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam to more or less say, what is the use of atonement if the person's only afraid of the reaction for his wrong activity, but really wants to be released from the karma of the reaction, but really doesn't want to be cleansed of the sin. And you can understand that somebody is somebody is with somebody else's wife and obviously doesn't want to be caught. And that's all his concern is. He's not really concerned that he's doing something wrong, that this is greatly sinful. He's not concerned about that. He's more concerned that I'll be caught. And if I'm caught, I'll be executed or I'll be whipped in the public square, or somebody will cut off maybe some part of my body or something, That's all. That's all he's really concerned about. He's just concerned about the reaction. Now, I'm not saying this question is in that light, but I'm just saying the word atonement, how do we atone for something? That becomes, maybe you want to use a different word instead of atonement. We're not really interested in atonement. You can say, how do I stop committing this offense? That's really my concern. My concern is not to atone for having offended the holy name. I'm not concerned about atonement. I really want to stop offending the holy name. I want to stop all offenses to the holy name. And that's really my concern. But I've used the word atonement. How do I atone for this? But really what I wanted to say is, how can I not commit any offense to the holy name, right? And that's a very good question, because in particular, what is the 10th offense to the holy name? It's to, even after hearing of the glories of the holy name, to maintain some material attachments. In other words, like figuratively, to have the anchor deeply submerged in the mud, so you can't move, the boat can't move. Has this anchor in the mud, and you can't freely move in that condition. So I'm trying to serve the holy name. I'm trying to not commit any offense to the holy name, but at the same time, I'm deeply attached to material enjoyment and so many material things. And that's mentioned as an offense. I believe the 10th offense of the holy name, in spite of hearing of the glories of the holy name, to maintain material attachments. Is that actually the way the 10th offense is worded? Something to that effect?
Yes.
Okay. But how am I'm a conditioned soul. I'm a mundane person. How will I get rid of committing these offenses to the holy name? And what Srila Sridhar Maharaj writes, I believe it, which book is it? He says, one of the sermons books, Guru Maharaj talks about, he said, this question was raised to Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and it was raised in very unusual circumstances. I believe, like Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he was not traveling on this earthly plane, right? He was traveling in on a different level of consciousness. Was that right? He was traveling in, I forget what the circumstance, but he wasn't just traveling in this world, but he met with, I believe, the demigods or something like that.
The Mahajans.
The Maharaj.
Language.
And this question was raised, and them Mahajans or whoever it was asked this question to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur gave a very good answer. He said, it's like, unless a Vaishnava reveals himself to us, we cannot know who is that Vaishnava. And the example given is with Gadadhar Pandit, who's certainly an exalted Vaishnava, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who is very exalted Vaishnava, but appeared to be like a worldly man, a rich man, with perfumed hair, curled hair, opulent dress, in a very opulent house with a silk bedstead, perhaps smoking a hookah, all that. All those things, and Gadadhar Pandit thinking, what kind of Vaishnava is this? But when the Vaishnava revealed himself, in this case, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, by his actions revealed himself to Gadadhar Pandit, then Gadadhar Pandit could understand, yes, he is really a Vaishnava, because that Vaishnava revealed himself to him. And sometimes we can't recognize what is the value of others, but by their actions, we may see, oh, this person is a genuine Vaishnava. I am not, but this person is a genuine Vaishnava, and I can appreciate that. So I will bow down and serve this Vaishnava. I want to do that. So one may have that mentality, but sometimes we may not know until the Vaishnava reveals himself to us. Then we can see, oh yes, I had doubts, but this person is a real Vaishnava. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur goes on to say that we may commit offenses, but we may pray to the holy name, you please reveal yourself to me, because I'm unable to appreciate really what is the holy name. And it came in reference to this maintaining material attachments in spite of hearing the glories of the holy name. Well, I may have heard about the glories of the holy name, but if the holy name, by my prayers, the holy name will reveal himself or themselves to me, then I may have some genuine understanding of the glories of the holy name and what constitutes offenses to the holy name. And then I may also in the process lose some of my mundane attachments. And somebody will say, how? And I will say, because suppose I'm used to eating something that doesn't taste very good, like gruel. That word gruel, it's not a very tasty. Unfortunately, I can answer this by my own personal experience, even though I'm taking what's called Mahaprasadam. But sometimes I don't know, sometimes we don't exactly know how to prepare. But is prasadam a question of just a taste? Well, I would say no, that's not a question of taste. It's, even if it's old or rancid, but it's been offered to the Lord, we are to respect that. Okay. And that's true. But I did see that Srila Govinda Maharaj, he always traveled with a coca, right? A coca, someone who could cook for him, right?
Yes.
And Srila Gurudev, although sometimes he would taste a little of what was prepared for him at the temple, he would say, bring it to me, and he would taste a little of it. But we never heard Govinda Maharaj necessarily. He would taste it and say, very nice, and something like that. But obviously, the reason he had a cocoa with him is because he couldn't necessarily eat the normal fare or the normal diet of what we would cook, right? I mean, you know, what's that saying? Is there some saying about a goose or gander or what?
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So it may be good enough for us, but it may not appeal to the particular palate of Gurudev, you know. For me, I may be able to relish something like, you know, we hear the term hot dogs, and we also have soy dogs, right? So when Gurudev was in London, he looked out the window and he saw somebody selling hot dogs. And then he asked, do they also have hot cats? Do you remember that question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Gurudev posed that. So, I mean, it's a joke, but Gurudev never said anything like, well, that's meat, that hot dog, but do you have any soy dogs? He didn't ask for that. So now tomorrow here is Thanksgiving. And I know devotees traditionally here, they prepare things that are normally served in Thanksgiving, but they're not, of course, not the real meat article. Like they have Thanksgiving, the traditional meal is a turkey dinner. So it's this time of the year, it's a very dangerous time for turkeys. I mean, they sell turkey. All this supermarkets and stores will sell turkey. And for the Thanksgiving dinner, I don't know how much thanks the turkey is supposed to give on Thanksgiving. So they sell turkey, and the devotees make tofu turkey. They make tofu turkey. And the turkey has what they call stuffing. They make stuffing out of bread. I'm sure you probably there in England have something similar. This stuffing, and they make it out of bread and other, you know, some seasonings and maybe celery chopped up with the bread and other things. It's actually made very tasty, but that the turkey is stuffed with stuffing. They make this and they stuff it inside the turkey. It's a little bit not very civilized in some ways. And then they also have with it many other articles, cranberry sauce and candied yams and cream corn and pumpkin pie and all this. This goes along with it. And every year, Saraswati would do this, and other devotees on Thanksgiving, which is tomorrow, they would prepare all these things and serve them. And then people would come from far and wide to participate in that Thanksgiving dinner. And I once described this to Purajit from Venezuela about, you know, this soy turkey, or what is it? Tofu turkey. They even sell that tofu turkey. And he reacted. He said, wow, that's gross. He said, that sounds disgusting. How can you do that? And I said, well, you mean there where you live in Venezuela, do you ever eat boca burgers or soy burgers? And he said, yes, of course. And I said, so how is this any more gross than that? or somebody's making tofu turkey, and maybe he thought we made it in the shape of a turkey, but no, we don't do that. That would be too difficult. That would be a challenge for the devotees, but I don't think they could rise to that occasion of making a tofu turkey made in the shape of a turkey stuffed with real stuffing and stuff like that. So they don't do that. But he questioned, how can you do that? That sounds disgusting. And I said, well, don't you also eat soy burgers there? And he said, yes, of course. I said, what's the difference? What's the difference? So although, why is it that we're vegetarians? Why is it that we're vegetarians, but we have so many false meat products? Could there be that we still have some attachment to what is not vegetarian?
Yeah, could be.
Could be. But the interesting, some of the devotees who are born into the families of devotees, they've never tasted, they don't even know what these things taste like. They have no experience. They don't know what turkey tastes like. They don't know what fish tastes like. They never had real fish and chips. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's their fortune. Anyway, so how did I get into this conversation? It's about atonement. It's about atonement, and we're interested in developing the appreciation for the holy name, and to eliminate the attachments for objects of this material world. So I would say maybe attachment for soy burgers and soy meat and tofu turkey and all that. Maybe that's an attachment. I don't know. Maybe. I just know that one joke that Srila Govinda Maharaj told, maybe this is not the time for jokes, but this, Srila Govinda Maharaj gave example because in Guru Maharaj's village of Hapania, they're different, they're Bengalis, and deeply embedded in the Bengali tradition is they're also in Bengal, they have many of them are Shaktas. And so they worship Kali Ma and they worship Durga. I was one time on a parikrama. I was with the devotees, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, many of them were guests, and we went to the temple, famous temple near where Guru Maharaj lived. In Hapania, there's a temple near there, isn't it? The temple of Bhuteshwar or something like that.
Buduraj.
Oh, Buduraj, okay. And there they had one thing that looked like kind of like a narrow slingshot with a long pole, and then it was braced up. And what they did is they put the sheep, not the sheep, because that's a reference that I was going to make. They put the goat there, they chopped the goat's head, and then, of course, the animal's flesh was consumed by the worshipers of Lord Shiva. They offered goats, and then they ate that. They ate that goat meat. It was, common in Bengal. So we went there with the different Vaishnavas. Many of them, they all, strangely enough, they scooped up earth around that tool, that thing that was there, and it was earth that had blood in it. And they took that blood, some of that bloody earth, and they put it inside a handkerchief and sealed it off to take it home for, I guess, their altar.
Wow.
This was a temple of, what's the name? Buddharaj. Now, it would never occur to me, I don't think it would occur normally to Gaudiya Vaishnavas who were, real Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I don't think it would be included within their practice to take some earth with blood in it offered to Lord Shiva to their house to put on their altar. It wouldn't occur to me that would be that any Vaishnava would do that. But yet, there are people, they were, they came to Gaur Purnima, they came to the programs with the Vaishnavas, but they also, honored that. And maybe I'm trying to understand for a normal Bengali person whether this would be considered, some object of worship. Apparently it was for some people. Anyway, I saw that. And then I'm getting to the point which Govinda Maharaj described. Some people nearby in Hapania, they were addicted to eating not the sacrificed goat, but they were addicted to eating mutton from a sheep. But somebody said, well, where in the Shastras is there, you may find in the Shastras some reference to sacrificing a goat to Lord Shiva, or a goat, I guess, to Durga, or maybe Kalima could offer a goat. But where do you see any reference to offering a sheep? So then Govinda Maharaj said somebody in the village wrote a Sanskrit verse, obviously a fake verse, about offering sheep, which was, just to cover their actions, right? Supposedly, this is Shastra, and it talks about offering a sheep. So then we're not doing anything wrong because we sometimes eat sheep meat, but here it's mentioned in the Shastra, but it wasn't really mentioned in the Shastra. It was something fabricated by them. So then Govinda Maharaj went on with his humor, I guess, and he said, once one sheep came before Lord Brahma, and he said, anyway, I've told this story, you've all heard it, I think, right, about the sheep, and saying this creation is unjust because other animals, they have some means of protection. Tigers have claws and fangs, and elephants have tusks, and boars have sharp hooves, and snakes have poison and fangs, etc. So, but we sheep, we have no means of protecting ourselves, and everybody eats us. And this is unfair. We demand our rights. We want to have our rights. And they said, the sheep said this to one rishi or something like that. And the rishi said, oh, you have a good point there. So let's bring this up to Lord Brahma. So that sheep was taken to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma said, yes, I understand your point, but this creation is already in effect. This creation is already going on, and we can't change the creation now. It's already running. So this is maybe good point for a future creation, but right now, it's not a time to bring this up. And the sheep said, what do you mean? We can't bring it up. This is unfair. We want our rights. We demand our rights. We're sheep, and everybody's eating us, and nobody protects us. And other animals have their own means of protection, but we sheep are helpless. So what are we to do? We want our rights. And then Lord Brahma says, all right. You don't understand. Now just go quickly. You leave. And then the sheep said, no, I won't leave. I want to know the answer to this. I want to know what you'll do I want to know what you'll do to protect us sheep. And the Lord Brahma says, no, please go. You don't understand. That is seeing you. you are so fat and you're so juicy. And some saliva was coming out of Lord Brahma's mouth. Now I imagine maybe this was a joke created by Govinda Maharaj or something to illustrate how what was the real position of those persons who have fabricated or created a false Sanskrit verse, some of the people in Hapania, to justify that they could eat mutton or sheep meat. Did you ever hear this example, Ratnavali?
Not mutton, but in certain sampradayas after the Bengal famine, a lot of people from other Vaishnava families said that they had some kind of, that their gurus had given them some allowance to eat fish for nutrition.
That's common. That's common.
But
They
never mutton, and chicken was a definite no-no because chicken's
All
seen
right,
as a
so-
really dirty animal.
so
Never
it's-
mutton though. Never heard
So,
of it.
all right, so we've heard the word Ganga fall. We've heard that. And, fish are Ganga fall. But I wanted to know, when I saw that people when we went to the temple of Bhuttaraj, and people were taking earth from the sacrificial place where goats were offered to, I guess, Lord Shiva. Is that normal for people to take that earth with blood in it, to take it home for their altar or something?
Maharaj, to be honest, no one in my family has ever done that because they all worship the Lord Krishna. So I'm quite lucky in that respect. So I've never heard of that. Sounds a bit bizarre to me.
Yeah, I thought it was odd. I was thinking, well, lots of people go on our parikramas with us. They bring people from the villages and all that, and they do. And not all of them are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So I thought maybe some of these people their behavior is a little distinct from what is normal Gaudiya Vaishnava behavior, because I couldn't, but maybe there are people who would think, oh, this earth with blood that was an animal was offered to Lord Shiva, this is sacred earth. I can't imagine why, but apparently some people...
it would be prasad, even the blood. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Gruesome.
Yeah, I would ride. I would ride the buses in Kolkata after like Durga Puja or Kali Puja, and I would see people, and I would think that maybe they weren't following veganism. They weren't vegans. Some of our devotees are vegans, and I can't understand. According to me, what is veganism? They won't take honey, they won't take milk, they won't take any cow product, right? That's a true vegan.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, well, was Krishna really vegan? I didn't think so. I thought Krishna came from a cowherd community. But anyway, I'd like to give everyone the benefit. I'm thinking that, they're vegan because maybe they're lactose intolerant. They cannot digest lactose, so therefore they're vegans. One devotee, he traveled all over, and he even did a program sponsoring goshalas. He was sponsoring goshalas and taking donations and doing everything to promote goshalas. But I guess because of I don't know if it was because of the inherent cruelty of some people to cows that he became a vegan. I was thinking, if you're promoting goshalas, why would you be a vegan? But maybe he was so disturbed by the violence to cows that he could not tolerate taking even milk products or cheese from animals that had been mistreated. It's possible. But anyway, back to my question. We often, when it comes to the idea, we often want to, it says, what is the way to atone for any of these offenses? I don't really believe the question is one of atonement, because I'm sure the person's very sincere and they're just using that word atonement, meaning how can I be free of these offenses? But I would say that we're not interested in atonement. We're interested in not making these offenses. How can we give up committing offenses to the holy name? They could say, oh, yes, that's true. We don't want to make any offenses up to the holy name, but since we are, how can we atone for making these offenses? And I would say, well, now you're getting into a different realm of how can I atone for making an offense? And I don't necessarily know if that's really going to be my true preoccupation. If I kick somebody out of meanness, what can I do to atone for that action? I've kicked you, and now I'm going to say, oh, Prabhu, please forgive my rude behavior. I should never have done that. I'm so sorry. Can you possibly, in your heart, forgive me? And the person may say, yes, but is that really a true atonement? I've caused some Vaishnava, or I've caused some person some harm. What can I do to make it up to that person? Well, first of all, we would want to know is, are you genuinely, deeply, heartfelt feelings, sadness and remorse and everything that you've done this? Is it just, offering some lip service, some facile apology? Is it just going to be like that? I remember one person, he brought to Srila Govinda Maharaj. He came to Srila Govinda Maharaj and he apologized. This person had printed a book with Govinda Maharaj's picture in it. It was actually Guru Maharaj's book, and he'd taken a razor blade and cut the picture out of the books, all the books that he printed. And then years later, he apologized, not for that offense, but he just apologized to Govinda Maharaj that I've done so wrong. I did this and did that and did this and did. He apologized to Govinda Maharaj. And when that person left, you know what Govinda Maharaj told us? He said, it's too late. He came to apologize too late, meaning his apology is just superficial. It's not a real apology. That was the implication. Govinda Maharaj said, it's too late. Now, if you'd done some offense and then came to Govinda Maharaj and apologized for your offense and then became truly repentant and acted in a different way, then of course, there's no necessity of that apology. Then we understand it's deeply heartfelt. But when this person came, and he just came, oh, Maharaj, please forgive me for all the offenses I've committed to you and everything like this. When the person left, Govinda Maharaj just said, it's too late. Now, I thought that was very interesting that Gurudev showed that, said, it's too late. You would normally not think of that way, but Gurudev is so, he's so real that you can understand he saw through that false apology. And he didn't say that to the person. He didn't say to the person, Prabhu, it's too late. But when that person left, Govinda Maharaj expressed to us, it's too late. This is not the time for an apology. Years later, after everything, But Govinda Maharaj didn't go into detail, he just said it's too late. This apology doesn't mean anything. So I'm just saying, how can we atone? How can we atone for an offense to the holy name? I mean, I would say for a person who is a real Vaishnav, they may sincerely feel I'm always making offense to the holy name. And I would say that, you know, that person is the genuine article. They're the real Vaishnava, and they may feel that way, but they don't have to worry about atoning for their offense to the holy name. That, as we always hear, with person sincerity, the holy name, they will appear within your heart. I heard that Govinda Maharaj say. And if you will go on chanting the holy name and try to avoid the offenses, then the holy name, they will appear within your heart. And I will think like that. You don't, prabhu or didi, it's not a question of, you feel genuinely, you're a real Vaishnava. You feel that you're making some offense to the holy name, but due to your deep sincerity, the holy name not only is not taking offense, but the holy name will appear to you in your heart. I will think that. I will think that about others. I won't think that about myself because I really know who I am. I don't want to. I'm not going to ask for any, and that I don't, that I'm, you know, what do they call it? A wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm not going to try and pass myself off as a real sheep. You know, I know who I am. Don't need to try and fool others. Anyway, something of my circuitous answer to these questions obviously have gone off track, but that happened a long time ago. This person's gone off track. Yes, years ago. Does anyone else have a question or a comment? These are good questions. I like these questions. They're very good. You know. These are good questions. And why there, somebody says, well, can you tell us something about Govinda Maharaj, or tell us something about Guru Maharaj, or about Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? Can you tell us something? I feel it's kind of like a bird's eye view of a saint. It's one thing where, what is it that who was it that asked Arjuna, what do you see? I see the bird. Well, to others he asked, what do you see? I see the bird and the tree, etc. Just the bird or the tree? Yes, I see the bird and the tree. No, go away. Till we came to, I guess, Arjuna. What do you see? The bird. You see the whole bird? No, just the eye of the bird. Okay. That's the true marksman. I mean, the true person of Arjuna. He's the Maharati. He's only seeing the eye of the bird, the exact, we can say the exact where he would throw his arrow. That he has that precision. Not that he's killing birds, but I mean, it's just an example of, he's not seeing the tree, he's not seeing the whole bird, only seeing the eye of the bird. So, but unfortunately, that's one thing. That's from the point of view of the archer. But I don't know from the point of view of the bird, a bird's eye view of a saint. What are you going to get? What kind of precision are you going to get out of that? Like, well, I'm just giving a somewhat humorous remark, because I always see that sometimes when I'm driving my car, sometimes the birds, they have a vision of my car, but it's not necessarily favorable. So if somebody asks me, what is my view of, can they tell me something about Guru Maharaj or Govinda Maharaj? And I could say, yeah, I can remember some incident or other, but is that really of much value? Do you want to see a saint through the eyes of somebody who can't really envision truly what is a saint? I mean, I can always give some example. Well, when I was with Prabhupada or I was with Guru Maharaj, this and this happened, but is that really about very much validity? I mean, just I don't know, almost seems like, in some ways it almost seems like, I don't know what, I don't want to criticize devotees, they're worshipable, but it seems a little bit like entertainment, because who am I to really envision the saint? I mean, what is my vision of the saints? I mean, they're worshipable by me. And of course, on Guru Maharaj's appearance day or Govinda Maharaj's appearance day, we will glorify them as much as we can according to our ability. But that's a little different. I saw after, for instance, after so-and-so disappears, they write so many books, the Lilamrita and this and that and this and that about that saint. And certainly we have been around these saintly persons enough to be able to have written these incidents. But I saw 100 books written about this saint, and I thought maybe I don't know what kind of eulogy that is. It would seem to me you can write about what you experienced with that saint, but I don't know. Sometimes I thought, kind of like Srila Prabhupada, he said, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and not through the speculative eye of some Jnani or somebody else like that. So I was thinking the same way that, if you really wanted to hear something about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, would you want to read a book about somebody else's experience of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or would you want to hear about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for instance, from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what he had to say about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati? Anyway, I'm saying I appreciate these questions. They're very nice questions. So before I get into any more trouble, I think maybe we'll. Any other questions? Anybody?
We do like to hear your accounts of Gurudev there, Maharaj.
Pardon me?
We do like to hear of your accounts of the times of, with this Guru Maharaj and Swami Prabhupada and Gurudev, because you might not think that you have that eye, but we do.
Okay, well, like they always say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So anyway, I can appreciate that. So now it's coming close to dinner time for all of you. It's past dinner time. It's now 10 after 8. People you don't eat dinner so late. You normally, do you?
In the temple, we take about after 8 o'clock.
Okay. So anyway, All right. Ratnavali, how are you?
Okay, Maharaj, just got back from work. I'm so sorry I missed half of the meeting, as
Okay,
usual.
I offer you my respects in memory of
Oh
your
my God,
mother.
thanks. Thank you, Maharaj.
She's was a very special lady.
He was Maharaj.
Okay. Okay. Gaura Chandra and Falguni, you guys are pretty quiet today.
Dandavat Maharaj, sorry about the beginning. I could not activate my microphone. Sorry. Dandavat devotees.
Listening to you, Maharaj.
Dandavat.
Dandavat to you, Maharaj. And to all the devotees.
Dandavat, Rasaraj.
Dandavat Maharaj, Dandavat devotees.
Dandavat.
Dandavat Bhagavan. Oh,
Dandavat
Subhas-
Maharaj, Jai Gaur Hari, Dandavat devotees.
Subhasini, how long have you been here? I was talking with Saraswati today about visiting after Gaur Purnima and everything like that. And actually to visit everyone, I would need to stay there more than a month. But the only problem I have is that we have a samadhi here of Srila Govinda Maharaj, and his disappearance day is, I think, on the 2nd of April, I believe. That's so. I would think that I should probably be back. I should be back in Soquel by the 2nd. Like, I had to think about this. I had to consider this, discuss it with others. But normally our whole community comes for that day, for Srila Govinda Maharaj's divine disappearance day. And they come because we have it at the Samadhi and everything. So I'm considering what to do in that case. Let me see. What day of the week? What day of the week is that? A month of.
It's Sunday, Maharaj. Sunday.
Okay, Sunday. And is Sunday the Ekadasi or is it the day after Ekadasi? Dwadasi. In other words, that's the actual day of the disappearance, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, normally I would be with the devotees here because we don't have so many things so many days that, I mean, it's like like other communities. There are certain days where all the devotees will come for that day, but that day is a very special day for everyone. The disappearance of Srila Govinda Maharaj. I mean, at least in many of the countries, the mission there began because of Srila Govinda Maharaj. Although we are all worshippers of Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Acharya Maharaj, we're worshippers of them. But actually, many of the temples and everything, they were begun, I don't know, by devotees when Govinda Maharaj came to visit there. That was, and many of our devotees, we have devotees of Guru Maharaj, we have devotees of Govinda Maharaj, and we have devotees of Srila Acharya Maharaj. So, I mean, for us, these days are very important, and I don't know. You could say, well, you could celebrate that with us. And I'd say, yes, that's true. But what do I tell? What do I tell everybody here? Yeah. So I'll see, but I'm certainly going to spend some time I'm going to spend some time in London, and I will try to go to Spain also after Gaur Purnima.
And try to come here also, Maharaj. Yeah, this time.
To Ireland also.
Yes.
Yeah. It don't have to be. If I do that, it would have to be for some days, not so many days in each place, to go there and just be with the devotees. Because I think if I leave after Gaur Purnima is on the 7th, and then we would usually stay in India at least through Pancham Dol, because Pancham Dol was the Hapaniya festival, and usually the devotees would stay through Pancham Dol 5 days after Gaur Purnima, and then after that day they would leave. And later it became Dasha. It would become Dasham. What do they call it? Dasham Dol. I guess that would be. Then they went to Bamanpar, but that wasn't so established with all the devotees. Usually the devotees tried to stay through the Hapaniya festival. So then if Gaur Purnima is at the 7th, maybe the earliest I could leave is maybe 12th or 13th, and that only leaves till the end of the month. What is it, 15, 17 days. Then we also have the situation, I could go a little early. Well, no, I could maybe go a little early and stay a little bit in London before I leave for India. Because again, Govinda Maharaj told me to be present in Sokel for Saraswati Thakur's appearance, which is on the 10th. That's on the 10th of February, a few days after Nityananda Prabhu's appearance. So I'd stay here for that. Then I could go to London, and I could maybe be in London almost a week before I go to India. But some of the devotees aren't going to be in London. They'll be like Saraswati, she's traveling. Are other devotees also going to India early? No. Or maybe spend some time in London then before going to the parikramas and everything, and then come back to London and then maybe visit other places. Anyway, I really, all the times I've come to visit all of you in London and Ireland. I haven't been yet to Spain, but I have desire to go there. All the times I've been with all of you devotees, it's been very, very nice for me. So if I can also go to Ireland too, I would like that. But in this time it would have to be more limited. I can't spend so much time. So maybe I could spend some time where Subhasini, that place, and then maybe also this last time I didn't go to Dublin.
Yes. Yeah. You didn't. Yeah. We can go to Dublin. Dublin. Yeah, it is. There is one devotee living in. I don't know whether he'll be able to accommodate, but he can try. We can try, or we can just go and come. It's not too far.
Well, we could. What I'm saying, maybe we could do a program in Dublin.
Yes, yeah, we can try. We can make a.
Okay, well, all right. We'll see. Anyway, my dandavats to all of you.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, please, my dandavat.
Dandavad. You.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj. Jai.
Jai. Dhanyavad.